What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another daily DLP here on the Detroit Lions podcast. I'm Russ Brown. He's Jeff Risdon. You guys are all very familiar with his daily content here on the Detroit Lions podcast. Jeff, my man, how the hell are you?
I enjoy you joining me for this one, Russ, and taking the reins because you're a better host than I am, and I freely admit that. So let's... we decided to get together and do this one. We're going to talk some Senior Bowl winners with the Lions' eye, maybe a couple of losers too. But nobody's a loser; they're just not winners. Yeah,
no, I'm with you. I wrote that in my my Senior Bowl column that dropped this morning over on my Substack at thedraftreport.substack.com, and I write a little bit. I always got like the little beginning, the intro, couple, sentences and paragraphs and whatnot. But I go through this intro and I'm like, it's not necessarily that these are the only risers that I'm talking about, right, and that everybody is a faller and so on and so forth. Like, it is such a busy week for these players. And sometimes I think we in the media, not saying you or me, but just people in the media, we get caught up on like how a player responds to an interview or how they had a bad day or whatever the case may be. And sometimes it is very telling, and there are times where you have to react to it because this is a reactionary business and all of those things. But it's a busy week for those guys, and they've got to go through installs and team meetings and interviewing with teams for the biggest job interview of their life. So like, if they got a bad day at the office on a Tuesday afternoon, I can understand. Plus, these guys are coming from all over, different time zones. There's an adjustment for me going from Eastern to Central. I can only imagine going from Pacific Standard Time to Central Standard Time, whatever the case may be. So,
yeah, and a lot of these guys had weather issues getting in. Like, it wasn't the easy. Mobile's never easy to get to. It really wasn't easy to get to this year because there were flight delays in Atlanta and Charlotte. So there are 3 airports you can fly into Mobile from: Atlanta, Charlotte, and I think Dallas is the other one. It's either Dallas or Houston. That's it. Well, 2 of those places were like wiped out by weather. So a lot of these guys probably spent a lot more time in an airport than they wanted to get to.
Yep.
And then, like you said, they're meeting, and this is on their schedule. I've seen their itineraries. Every single player there meets with all 32 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of those are only 5-minute meetings, but some of them might take 45 minutes and bleed into another time slot. That's a whole lot of people that you're meeting. Your head is just racing with all the action that's going on. And then you got to go out and perform in largely unfamiliar circumstances. Let's just say you're a wide receiver. You're going against a corner you've probably never seen before, catching passes from a quarterback who isn't very good.
Or that you've never caught passes from.
Right, exactly. Like why is he throwing the ball so fucking high?
Right.
Then it's also like thinking that at times.
Yeah, and then there's like the schematics to it, right? Like, I watched one of their install meetings this year, and I look at, like, you watch maybe somebody that was a running back, for example, out of Oregon. Not saying there was a running back from Oregon, but just using them as an example. Maybe there's a lot of zone, inside, outside zone in that offense. They're going there and they're learning duo. Imagine if you're an offensive lineman, you've never had to do that deuce block on duo getting up to a linebacker, because if you're playing outside zone, all you're doing is using your drag hand and just trying to cross the face of the nearest defender and pinning him and creating some type of lane. So it's so interesting to see some of the reactions and things like that. Granted, we're going to have a great show. We're going to have some reactions, winners and losers from the Lions lens. It's fun. So we'll get into it here. And before we do, you guys need to smash that follow button over on Twitter or X at Russ NFL Draft and at Jeff Risdon. And of course, you guys can rate, review, subscribe to the Detroit Lions podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other podcast platforms. So let's dive in. Senior Bowl winners for the Detroit Lions here on the Daily DLP. Who were some winners for you? And I guess maybe you start with 2. Maybe you start on, a couple on offense, then we'll switch over to defense.
Yeah, I think one of the ones on offense, and I have to couch this because he didn't have a very good game, but in practices, and I'm going to say his name wrong. You know who I'm talking about. It's the Wyoming tight end, John Michael. It's not Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Gillenborg. Oh my God.
Gillenborg.
Yep. I did the daily on Monday and I said his name wrong twice. Oops. Yeah. Gillenborg is a speedster slot tight end. Came to Nebraska or Wyoming. Was a basketball player more than he was a football player. He played in 3 total high school football games in his life. Got his senior year wiped out by COVID. Like, this is a guy who is an athlete first and a football player second, but he's growing into being a football player, and he was uncoverable in one-on-one drills. Now, again, safeties, linebackers trying to cover tight ends, advantage tight end, like clearly.
Correct. Yeah.
No doubt about it, although there was one linebacker who looked pretty darn good in coverage. And you might get him. I might too, actually. But he had a pass, ran a beautiful seam route, like even zoned it in a little bit because the zone coverage was coming in from the outside. So he naturally like veered inside, like read it. And the ball went right through his hands from Garrett Nussmeier. Pretty good throw, catchable ball, and got picked off. But so that was in the game. But during the week, I liked what I saw a lot as a guy who can replace Brock Wright in 2027 or perhaps even 2026, because they're going to have to make some decisions on some of these guys. Drew Petzing is your offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell, former NFL tight end, as your head coach. You probably need to be good at tight ends. And that's so Gillenborg's a guy that I can add to that. And hey, I said his name right now. Happy about that. Another guy on offense. I thought Kevin Coleman from Missouri as a wide receiver was uncoverable all week.
Yes, dude. His releases were awesome.
Yeah, nobody could stay in front of him. He was just really, really good. I wish he would attack the ball better in the air. Like there are some things to nitpick with him, but as far as getting open and then also making the would-be tackler miss, I thought he was really, really good this week.
Yeah, I'm with you on Coleman 100%. I thought it was either the first or second day of the team portion. He made a pretty tough catch over the middle of the field on an in-breaking route, and it was like, man, that's NFL caliber stuff. And then to your point, you go watch him in these one-on-ones and the release packages and the things that he can do from that perspective is really, really impressive. Just 2 names for me to add, and then I can turn it back over to you as we go through more offensive players or switch to defense, however you want to go about it. But, looking at tight ends, for me, Sam Roush from Stanford, I was really high on him going in. I had texted you about him and said, hey, if you got time, watch this guy if you haven't watched him already. But just under 6'6", 259 pounds. He can block, shorter arms at 31 inches, but I thought he played really well in the one-on-one portions for his size, and that was important. And again, I know these one-on-ones are very advantaged to the offense. We all know that. We can admit that because, again, when you're playing press man as a linebacker matched up against the tight end, it's not always going to go to your advantage, nor are you going to really be asked to do that in the NFL. But then you look at, some of the things, just what he was able to do in space with Sam Roush. I mean, it was really impressive from top to bottom. Now, not everything was perfect. That's fine. There's going to be learning curves. There's going to be things that, necessarily where he gets covered up because like the defense is going to win a couple at times. But just from a size perspective, I thought he was really impressive, and I really liked what I saw from him. And then the other one, wide receiver Barian Brown from LSU, just talking around about him. He's a lot of praise for how he carried himself at Kentucky, the way he transferred to LSU and fit in with that team. One of the fastest times of any player there at 20.35 miles per hour. This is a guy that's a former track star, 100-meter dash PR of 10.49 seconds, so he can fly. I thought the diamond release that he showed during one of his release packages was pretty impressive. Not as impressive as Malachi Field, but he did a really good job. And then he just worked through some contact on those one-on-ones. So I think a team looking for maybe a gadget player, because LSU would use him on jet sweeps and manufactured touches, and then you get him in that wide receiver 3, potential early day 3 range. I think he's a really intriguing player. And as I look at teams, that want a special teams guy that can return and just go out there and maybe play that slot, I think Houston at 106, the Rams at 93, and the Raiders at 102, kind of that range is where I see Brown potentially falling. So those were 2 risers for me offensively for sure.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily see the Lions taking a wide receiver other than maybe at the very end of this draft, just because, I mean, they have Isaac Tesla as wide receiver 3. They've invested a lot in 1 and 2 and 3 for that matter. They do have Dominic Lovett coming off of a rookie season where he really didn't do much other than special teams. So there's not necessarily a need for that, but as Brad Holmes has shown in the past, he is willing to go best player available, even if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense based on the current roster. Because one of the things, and Russ, you and I have talked about this a lot, the draft for this team is much more about the following year and 2 years. Like the 2026 draft, the impact for this draft is going to be 2027, 2028. That's when these guys are going to be, other than your first round pick who's expected to play right away. Your second round pick this year might not play a lot. Your fourth round pick might not play a lot. Your sixth and seventh round picks are probably practice squad guys, if we're being straight, as rookies. But then you want them to emerge in a year or two, much like we're hoping that Dan Jackson does as a 2025 draft pick who missed his entire rookie season. You know, Lovett's another one. Miles Frazier is another one. He got his beak a little wet, but we're expecting a lot more in the second and third years of those rookie contracts from those guys. I think that's important to keep in mind, especially after the first 2 picks in this draft, because there's probably not, honestly, a huge roster spot opening for them. Now, they can play their way up and compete into it, and that's fantastic. But the expectation will be that they're not probably going to make a real ripple on the active roster until 2027, 2028.
Yeah, no, I agree. And if they can get, 2 decent starters in rounds 1 and 2 and maybe a quality depth player in that 4th, 5th round range, and then, as to your point, get other guys that are just coming in, competing, and essentially elevating the other talent on the roster and making things better for the veteran guys and other younger guys. I think that's kind of a home run for the Lions, considering the circumstances, because again, this is still a pretty good roster. They've got some retooling and reshaping and things like that, and some signings that they've got to handle, but we're going to be okay, everybody. I think we're going to be all right there, but staying on track with the Senior Bowl offensively, any other offensive guys that you want to touch base on, whether it be quarterbacks, linemen, running backs, you name it, go take your pick.
So I should probably talk about Garrett Nussmeier, just because I wrote about him for CFB at SI, and I also I watched a lot of LSU in the last day because he was the game MVP. He had a nice week. It wasn't the best week, but one of the things that he did, he talked about how he was hurt all season. And do I think the Lions are taking a quarterback this year? I don't. I just don't see it. But because quarterback is such a hot button thing, and there are a lot of fans out there that are like, oh, we got to go get ourselves a backup quarterback. We don't like Kyle Allen because we don't know who he is. Nussmeier honestly probably played his way into the middle of day 2, if not a little bit earlier, like maybe second round.
Yeah.
I don't see it. He's fine. He makes some interesting decisions that I wouldn't want my quarterback to make. And the fact that even though, like, it was this revelation amongst the draft community, and so you know this, that he weighed in at 202 because he had played rumored to be in the 180s at 6 foot, a little over 6 foot tall, like rail thin.
Yeah.
Lots of durability issue questions there. He's dealt with injuries in the past. He had an oblique injury that allowed him or kept him from being able to throw the ball like as hard as he wanted to this past season, which I get. And he looked healthy, which is nice. But where he's going to go, I'm out on him for the Lions. That's way too rich for my blood. What about you? With any quarterbacks catch your eye down there?
Nussmeier would have been the guy. Nussmeier would have been the guy for me. I like what I've seen, but at the same time, to your point, like rail thin, injury concerns. There's some interesting throws that I would not want my quarterback to make either. Meanwhile, I think there are times, that he's got a wide open throw up the seam or down the sideline on tape, and he doesn't throw it. He just holds onto it, or he kind of ducks it and just like gets too much air under it or something, and it underthrows, underdelivers. And I say that just simply because I watched quite a bit of Barry and Brown after this weekend, and or going into this weekend. And so like that's where I'm at with Nussmeier, and it really reminds me resemblant of Ryan Finley from North Carolina State several years back, where I was just, yeah, Ooh. Man. It's just like that was my guy. I thought he was going to be so good, and I ignored the noise of everybody telling me otherwise. And boy, was I wrong. And it's just like, man, I hope that doesn't happen again. And hopefully it's not Nussmeier, but it will be interesting because I think there's some connection there with Mike McCarthy and the Pittsburgh Steelers and some of those things. So we'll kind of see where that all.
There's such a gap between Fernando Mendoza and everybody else.
Yes, I agree.
I was going to say Diego Pavia. We can probably put that one in the do not draft file.
Well, and that was going to be the player that I was going to mention next.
Okay, go with it.
Because honestly, Jeff, I don't understand it. I just don't get it. Maybe I'm a hater because of the way he walked at the Heisman Trophy ceremony, or maybe the way he carries himself. Maybe I'm just an old man yelling at the clouds. But the more that I watch him, the more that it feels like he is just imitating quarterbacks. He's not playing quarterback. He's trying to be something that he's not. And I thought it was very telling during the first team session on Monday or Tuesday during practice, where the first 5 snaps were absolutely atrocious. He couldn't get a grip of the football. He couldn't go under center. He was fumbling handoff exchanges at the mesh point with the running backs. Like, there were just too many things. And sure, there was a throw. I think he was the one that made the throw to Malachi Fields, if I remember right. And Fields made that great adjustment down the field. Yep. But just chucking it a mile and hoping the receiver does something doesn't necessarily mean like you did anything great, like in my opinion. Like, it wasn't like you were fitting it through a safety with a linebacker underneath or a nickel trailing. So I don't know. I'm out on him, and I'm with you. Outside of Mendoza and maybe Ty Simpson, I don't know if I like any of these quarterbacks, and I don't even know about Ty Simpson. Like, I would just hope they would figure out what's going on with Trinidad Chambliss from Ole Miss, so we can just go ahead. If he's playing or not, cool. But if he's coming into the draft, I don't know how you go, that's not QB2. That's QB2.
He's QB2. Oh, yeah.
That's just what it is. So, I don't know. That's where I was at with the quarterbacks. But offensive line wise, were there any guys? I know you had mentioned a name before.
Yeah. So Arizona State, and I'm going to butcher his name, and I should probably know how to say it, but Max Ihenachor, I don't know how he pronounces it yet. I should probably get on that. Long limbed, almost too long, but dude can punch. His hand placement was pretty nice. He stays engaged pretty well. I thought he moved for a taller guy. He is 6'8". And I don't have up in front of me how long his arms are, but they've got to be 35 or 34 and a half anyways. I thought he controlled himself pretty well. And he has some, like, his ASU tape is, I don't want to say it's rough, but it wasn't what we saw in Mobile. By the way, neither of us were there. We were watching all the tape. We've been obsessed with watching the tape and sending clips back to one another. It's a lot of fun. I'm talking to guys who were there. I thought he did really well for himself, and apparently he was a massive winner in the interview process too. Just a guy who comes across as very genuine, very earnest, hardworking, and somebody that fits what the Lions, to borrow the phrase, he's cut from their cloth. And I got that from a couple of different people. And he is where do you think he goes? 3rd round, 4th round?
Jeff, I could see this dude, and he was my top, my number 3 riser for my Senior Bowl article this morning. And I felt like he was one of the top 3 players that I had watched through the process at the Senior Bowl. And I compared his projection or his rise through the process, comparable, whatever word you want to use, to Matthew Bergeron from Syracuse when he was coming out in 2023. And Bergeron ended up being a top 50 pick, starting guard for the Atlanta Falcons. And I just felt good player. Yeah. And I know Max has played less than Bergeron up to this point in their careers, but just kind of the feedback that you're getting and hearing, I could see him falling somewhere in that 2nd round range. And I wonder, is there any chance that he does slip into the 1st round simply for the fact that there is so much to work with because of all the points that you mentioned, from the length to the footwork. Like, his footwork is exceptional.
It's nice.
I mean, former soccer player, former basketball player. The way he's so square and plays to that defensive end that's out wide on him. He's so square and so quick with his feet. It's like he's almost, playing one-on-one in basketball, just playing defense and shuffling his feet from side to side. And like, he's so efficient in that regard. So I wonder, like, would a team like Philadelphia at 23 or the Patriots at 31, both teams need right tackles for the future. Is this somebody where you just roll the dice and you're like, hey, we've got it. We got a good roster. We got a good thing going. So I don't know. You're right, though. Third round range is probably where more so his tape is at. But just with the whole process, this guy might shoot up just higher than that because of the whole process.
Yeah, there's a lot of O-line desperate teams. Like the Cleveland Browns could realistically have to replace all 5 offensive linemen from last year.
Yeah.
They have 2 first-round picks. They have 2 second-round picks. It wouldn't shock me if they used a couple of those on offensive line, and he fits what they want to do too, or at least what we think they want to do with their new old head coach who didn't really want the job. Oh, ladies and gentlemen.
At least we're not the Browns.
It could be worse. When you think it could be worse, I give you the Cleveland Browns.
Absolutely. Well,
hiring Todd Monken. I'll go off on this for real quick.
No, you're good. Take your time.
He was their offensive coordinator in 2019 when they had hired Freddie Kitchens as their head coach because their owner was afraid that Freddie was going to interview for other OC jobs. It's a true story. They brought Monken in. Monken and Freddie did not get along, and it is well documented by a bunch of people, and I was there too, where Todd Monken was talking to the opposing coaches during the week and before games and telling them, like, dude, we're terrible. This Freddie guy, he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Like, just sabotaging the team.
Yeah.
And now they've hired him. Like, the owner knew it, and oh my God. I am so blessed to be in Lions land and not have to worry about the Cleveland Browns, my hometown team, anymore. It's very easy now for me to explain why I am from the Cleveland area, and I've been a Lions fan and not a Browns fan for a very long time, and more and more people are getting that. And it's not like the Lions have been great shakes by any stretch of the imagination, but where we're at now, I'm happy.
And they don't have that going for them, where they got coaches sabotaging the players and rosters and the coaches that they're with in those types of things. But one other winner I'll add on the offensive side, Sam Hecht from Kansas State, the center. Yes. Going into the Shrine Week, I watched Jagger, Burton. I was watching him from Kentucky, and I maybe it was premature, but I had told you, we texted you, I said, man, this guy looks awesome.
I like him.
And he's very good. But man, did Sam Hecht just kind of come out and kind of trump him a little bit. And I thought at 6'4", 297, 32-inch arms, Hecht is definitely maxed out and kind of resemblant to Garrett Bradbury in that sense. But for teams in need of a center, i.e. the Lions, I think that this is a player that makes a lot of sense. He handled his own against Daryl Jackson, Daryl Jackson is a fun, defensive lineman from Florida State who, if he's not bull rushing and long arming his way, he doesn't necessarily win that much. But Hecht did a really good job holding his own against him in one-on-ones. And I just felt like the way he moves, his technique, how he never panics, it was really impressive, kind of day one stuff. And Duke Merriweather, he's saying OC1. And if he's telling you that's the top center, that's the top center, because that's the guy that works with all the top prospects, and I trust his judgment. And that's just Sam Hecht is really impressive. But we can switch gears over to the defensive side unless you got things to add.
I wanted to add a couple of offensive linemen. Keelan Rutledge, the guard from Georgia Tech, I thought did really well. I've been higher on him than most people in the draft community already. He's a borderline top 100 player for me. I don't know if he's going to go that high because he is probably right guard only. I guess he has played some left, but I see him in the role that, like, he fires off so well. He duos. He's got experience running duo, which the Lions run a lot of.
He pulls well.
He does. He moves. He can engage. He can do outside zone if you need him to. Not that the Lions do a ton of that, but he's capable. And this is a guy that's, third, fourth, probably your fourth round pick. If you're Detroit, you can get him. I'm a fan. And the other thing I like about him, even when he loses initially, he's got enough functional athleticism that he can recover quick enough that you're not going to get the quarterback flattened. It's the opposite of what we've seen from Tate Ratledge, who, when he gets beat bad.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that he's really got to clean up into his second year, because I thought otherwise, other than that, like, Tate Ratledge is really, really good, except when he's not. No.
Yeah. No, you're spot on there.
He doesn't have like average reps. He's either really, really good or, oh shit.
Right. Yeah. And the hope is Rutledge maybe isn't that in the NFL. And obviously we don't know if that'll be the Lions or not, but I was encouraged to see that he actually was taking snaps at center as well.
He did.
They weren't great snaps. There was one play where he rolled one back, and I think it was Cameron Ball, the defensive tackle from Arkansas, that was lined up against him, but he did a really good job holding his own in that spot and had his hands locked in. It's like, man, that guy's got some grip strength and some torque there. If he gets a hold of you and moves you, pretty solid stuff. Kind of the same thing with Carver Willis, the offensive tackle from Washington, who might be more of a guard. But
I think he's a guard.
Yeah. Just because of the way his frame looks, he's got the length and the size, 33 and 3/8-inch arms, but 6'4", 305, just kind of built like a guard, and the way he uproots defenders. So I'm really intrigued with him, and I'll be curious kind of where he lands as well. So I think there's some, and I might have texted this to you or Scott, but if you're in need of offensive line, which the Lions are, obviously you mentioned the Browns as well, and plenty of other teams, it's a good draft for, I think, offensive linemen. And maybe I'm premature to that. Might not be elite, but you're going to find some really quality players.
Yeah, you can get guys second, third, fourth, even fifth round. I do want to bring up one other guy. Look, if you've ever seen a picture of him, he looks exactly like a Detroit Lions offensive lineman, and that's Jennings Dunker from Iowa. The red mullet flowing, just incredibly. He's almost like an urban legend come to life, the way he is. Got the mustache, and I talked to a couple people who talked to him down there, and he has come to the realization that he is not an offensive tackle at the NFL level. He is working his ass off to learn guard and center. I think this guy can start at right guard right away for you, because his tackle tape, to be frank, isn't very good.
Yeah.
He's got the aesthetic. He does. I'm not going to say that his length isn't there, but he doesn't use it very well. And he's much more of a, I'm going to lean into you style of blocker. And that's not very conducive unless you're ridiculously good at it, like Panay, because Panay does do that. Yeah. But Panay's got incredible feet, great reactive quickness, and Dunker doesn't have either of those. But I can see him being a second round guard. And a lot of Lions fans are going to gravitate towards him because of the aesthetic, because he is certainly cut from the Dan Campbell cloth. Yeah. And it's easy to see Hank Fraley get along with him and finding ways to work with him, the Lions offensive line coach. He didn't say he's not going to play tackle, but he has realized that his much brighter path in the NFL is playing inside. And I think that's a very good move for him. A good epiphany on his part. And, I still see him at 50 to 75 overall range. And the Lions are right at the top of that. If they don't get an offensive lineman in the first round, I'd still prefer a tackle there, but I can see them liking him as a guard. Especially if the Lions, like I do, see Miles Frazier as a tackle more than a guard, which I'm probably alone on that island at this point, but I'm not going to get off of it until the island burns to the ground.
Yeah, I don't think that's a wild thought. I really don't. I think, there's some certain flexibility there. And I think we've talked about it in the past, specifically in the summer or after they draft, like, this guy's going to give you 5-position versatility, even if he's never because I can see him being actually a really good center. I just, I don't know if that's going to be a thing. And I get there's footwork changes and there's things that you've got to do with the, snap and then stepping and all the things that roll with it. But I don't know. Miles Frazier is potentially a hidden gem here in Detroit that maybe not a lot of people realize up to this point, but we'll kind of see where that goes. I don't remember. We've mentioned so many names up to this point. I don't even know if we mentioned any defensive players. Were there any defensive players that maybe won you over for the Lions? Maybe not necessarily at 17, but maybe pick 50 or even just later in the draft, because if they add depth to some of the names that they're going to lose, these free agent players that are on 1 and 2 year deals, or long-term guys like Anzalone, if he comes back or not, we'll see. But you lose some of these guys, you got to replace them. Defense, to me, in the perfect world, you take offensive tackle at 17 and defense the rest of the way. Get weapons, get weapons, get weapons.
I don't have a problem with that, Russ. I'll give you 2 guys that stood out, and one of them is somebody that I know that you like as well, and that's Bud Clark, the safety from TCU. He was my 5th round pick in the mock draft that I did, the mock draft version 1.0. You and I talked about it before. Like, we see Kirby Joseph in him.
Yeah.
A lot. Not the Kirby now, but the Kirby from Illinois who got drafted late in the 3rd round and became an all-pro. And the coverage instincts, the way he moves, the way he dives at feet from too far away when he tries to tackle, like the ball skills. I think he had 15 career interceptions in 4 years.
Yep.
And he showed that at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Incredible spatial awareness in team drills, which, like, it's tough to play safety in those teams because you are limited on what you can do and the coverages that you can roll. And he did things that I'd like. This guy, that if you're looking for a guy who can be Kirby insurance. And oh, by the way, he was also a 3-year special teams captain at TCU. You know that speaks to Brad and Dan. So he's the guy that I have absolutely circled as a potential Lion. And again, they have to get safety help.
Yeah.
With Kirby and Branch injured, they have Thomas Harper and Dan Jackson as your safeties. Like the Lions have actually been worse than that at safety by a lot, but they need help. And a guy like Bud Clark he's NFL ready too. He did have, I don't know his age. He was high school class of 2020. So it's like 6 years of college. So he's probably 23, maybe 24.
Yeah.
But that only really comes into play if you're looking at a developmental player. He's not a developmental player. He's ready to rock and roll right now. So he's a guy that I like. And I'll go late in the draft. Western Michigan, just down the road from me here. Nadame Tucker played really, really well in, I think it was Wednesday's practice, the second day.
Yeah.
My goodness. Getting after it. Showed that he could win inside, which he didn't do a whole lot of at Western. And he didn't do a whole lot at Western or Houston before 2025. Like, he was not on anybody. He wasn't even on their watch list because at Houston, he was there for 4 years and played, I think, 200 snaps. Like, just couldn't get on the field.
Yeah.
He has some obvious, and if you watch the Senior Bowl tape, you see it. Dude is stiff-hipped, not a lot of bend to him, but he can disengage and he can go when he's got a crease and doesn't hesitate at all. He's a little bit of an all or nothing pass rusher. He can play the run. I've seen him do it. I saw him play in person. He's not bad. He's not going to be a guy who's ever going to like set a hard anchor on the edge. If you're looking for a guy who can be your last pick in the draft, and he could actually. So every year I pick Mr. Irrelevant just to see if I'm close or not. And sometimes the guys get drafted. I came within 5 picks one year. I'm like, yes, that's great. I can see him being like one of the final 10 picks of the draft, and a team gets him in, and he's going to at least stick on your practice squad for a year because you want to see what he has. But the other thing with him, he is 26 years old, so you're not dealing with a whole lot of upside there. But you got to acknowledge what he did at the Senior Bowl. It was very impressive, and he won a lot of the same ways that Al-Qadim Muhammad won. He's not as bendy as AQM, but you can see where the Lions would look at him and be like, okay, maybe if he goes undrafted, we sign him right away.
Right.
I think that's what, but he had a great week.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, they're going to get firsthand, a firsthand look at him at the local pro day and all that stuff too.
That's
so
correct.
they're going to get, a lot of insight on what he can do, what he can't do. They obviously can see it on tape as you've kind of described up to this point. And I'm with you on the age thing. Like for the Lions, I could give a shit what any of these guys are. Everybody talks about a window. Well, if they got a window, the age doesn't matter. Go out and capitalize, get good football players and capitalize on your window, even though I don't buy into the window thing because it doesn't matter. Your window opens and closes all the time. And if you don't believe me, look at the Seattle Seahawks. Like it's legit proof of that over the last 2 seasons of what they've done. So no, I'm with you on him and the entire evaluation. Totally worth rolling the dice on, regardless of age or 4 different colleges, 2 of them being D1, the rest being kind of the community college route, the JUCO route. But very, very interesting player that I think kind of meshes with what they're looking for off the edge opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, not necessarily from the size threshold because he's listed at 6'3", 250, 260. He didn't measure at the Senior Bowl.
He did not.
Which is unfortunate. Probably means he's a little bit closer to like 6'1", 6'2", 245, 250, which might be like James Houston. But hey, if that works for a couple of years for you, it works out. So
yeah,
we'll kind of see there. Other defensive guys to add from my end. I love that you mentioned Bud Clark. I'm going to go with Kyle Lewis, though, linebacker from Pittsburgh. I thought from a linebacker perspective, he was the best one of the bunch this week, just from his coverage ability. Not always perfect as far as run fits and the way that he disengages from blocks in the box, but he can cover in the way that he was able to undercut routes, the way that he was sticking in the hip pocket of tight ends and running backs. 5'11", 224, 32-inch arms. I know a lot of people are writing that down going, get him off the list. You can't draft that.
Yeah.
Matt Milano, 6 foot, 223, 32-inch arms for people that are keeping track at home. And to be honest with you, like
Milano's good.
Yeah, Milano's pretty good, 5th round pick, but also like, is Kyle Lewis more of a will, or is he going to play that big nickel overhang defender at the next level? What is he going to play? Because I think he's going to play plenty fast. I think he's got really good range. And for a team like the Lions, who, yeah, they've got Derek Barnes, they've got Jack Campbell, but Rodriguez is a free agent, Anzalone is a free agent. You need to add another linebacker in this room, whether you bring one of those guys back or not. So I think Kyle Lewis would be interesting if you go out and get him. Now, I don't know what range he's going to go. Like in my ideal team fits, I put him in that 3rd round range. But it might be less. It might be, 4th round range, 5th round range. But I thought, looking at just teams that are maybe looking for more of that will big nickel guy, the Titans at 65, the Raiders at 67, the Commanders at 71, kind of make a lot of sense to me because as you start going through the list of players, like, you just draft good football players. I think he's a good football player. So Kyle Lewis for me is there. And then TJ Parker, edge out of Clemson. If I don't talk about him, then I'm an idiot. And I might be wrong. But he is Chris Braswell 2.0, and I'm fine with that. I was a Chris Braswell guy. I love the long arm technique. I love guys that try to always put speed to power, normally go with more power, go to that well a little bit. And I think TJ Parker, is he a 1st round caliber player on tape? No, but I think the potential to be a 1st round pick is there because once you get past Reuben Bain and once you get past David Bailey, Keldrick Falk, once you get past a couple of these guys, it gets a little interesting. And I just wonder if a team would fall in love with him. The Chargers at 22, the Eagles at 23, obviously the Lions at 17. Imagine him opposite of Aiden Hutchinson for the next 4 or 5 years. Like, I don't know, man. I think that's kind of exciting. And even if the Lions were to trade down and then get him, was really intrigued with how he played.
Best of both worlds. He's a guy, he went into the season and he was in the top 5 in a lot of preseason mock drafts. Yeah. And he, like the rest of Clemson collectively, didn't play his best. Yeah. They did not have a good year. Woods, their defensive tackle, is another guy who I think he's a solid 1st rounder, and he doesn't appear in every 1st round mock. Which is crazy. Parker is kind of the same way. He didn't forget how to play. He didn't have a great year. I'm curious how much dog he's got in him to fight back. And I don't know the answer to this question. Is he going to be the kind of guy who puts the bad year and uses it as fuel for his fire to come out and take the NFL by storm. And we've seen guys do that in the past. A lot of guys. Trey Hendrickson is a good example of that.
Yeah.
Didn't have a good first year in the NFL and was like, well, damn, man, I got to save myself here, and went out and has become fantastic and is going to get paid $30 million a year, not by the Lions, but by someone this year. And, good for him. So I'm always curious about the guys who start out high. Nussmeier was like that too, and then fall.
Yeah. And
where do they find their range, and do they rise back up, or do they succumb and keep the snowball unfortunately flowing down? Yeah. So both those Clemson guys are like that. Really, the whole quarterback Cade Klubnik is like that too.
Yep.
Like, I thought Cade Klubnik had first round potential going into the season.
Yep.
And he didn't play like it. He got better as the season went on. I will give him that. He apparently had a very nice week of interviews in Dallas or Frisco at the Shrine Bowl. I know a couple people that talked to him there, and we're like, he's carrying himself like he's an NFL starting quarterback. And I don't know if he's going to get that shot, but he was a guy that was down in the 5th, 6th round of a lot of projections, and now you're going to see him creeping back into day 3. And again, I don't think the Lions are going to have any interest in him, but for a team like, I don't know, the Bengals, the Colts,
Arizona,
teams that need that might have a veteran quarterback that they might want to replace in a year or two, to get him in as a backup who can high upside, high potential.
Yeah.
He's got an incredible arm. Like, his arm talent is very nice.
How about Minnesota?
They just fired their GM, so who the hell knows what's going on there. How do you fire your GM at the Senior Bowl? Like, or just before. Like, what are you doing? You had months to figure this out.
Right.
Now you're behind everybody else. All the good candidates are gone. They're taken elsewhere. That, by the way, is a massive win for the Lions this offseason. The fact that Minnesota gave up on Kwesi now, like, wow, what a interesting move from the people up north.
Yeah, with nobody in sight to replace him. Obviously, some people there on the interim, but it just sounds like a disaster. You've got Justin Jefferson talking about how they would have been better with Sam Darnold, and it is a dumpster fire, it sounds like, in Minnesota. And I'm sure I'll be eating my words when they end up somehow winning 12 games or something stupid. But
they have too many good players to be bad.
Yes.
They don't have enough to be great. And
correct.
I'm not sure that getting rid of their GM now is going to help that.
100%. I 100% agree. But I don't have anything else to add from a Senior Bowl perspective. I really didn't think we were going to go 43 minutes.
I know. We just get going, baby.
I know. I mean, we can talk a couple losers if you got anything in mind.
Not really. Like, I didn't see a lot from the linebackers, but again, linebacker and running back are the two most difficult positions to impress with, unless you're really, really good at coverage or really, really good at pass protection,
right?
As a running back or in coverage as a linebacker, it doesn't really stand out that much, because it's not live tackling, it's not live breaking tackles, which is what you want your running backs and or linebackers to do. So
yeah, well, I do have a loser. And
okay, give it to me.
And it could be through the Lions lens, simply because I have seen mock drafts where the Lions are drafting a corner in the first round, and that's fine. But more so later on day 3, if the Lions end up with Malik Muhammad from Texas, I'm not going to be too happy, because I don't think he played well at all during the week. And again, I mentioned this before the show. I don't like bashing guys, but there is a rep where Berrien Brown carves him up on a corner route. And I have never seen a corner in Mobile faceplant as hard as Malik Muhammad did. And I will send you the clip. I'll repost the clip. Find it over on Twitter at Russ NFL Draft. But 5'11", almost 6 feet, 183 pounds, both in the bottom 25% threshold for the position as a corner. A little bit undersized, didn't play well in one-on-ones. I thought it was all very telling. Again, though, I know the week is very troublesome and in a lot of chaos, but in a week where you got to show out and you got to put some good in there, I didn't think there was a lot of good from Malik Muhammad from what I saw. But again, maybe he'll be better than I think.
Yeah. I will bring up one other guy who had a very nice week, but I don't think that he's going to be on the Lions radar. And he was in my DLP daily DLP from Monday. He was my first prospect of the day, and that's Zion Young from Missouri. Good player, had a fantastic week. He was the defensive MVP for whichever squad. I think he was on the American squad down there. He had a DUI in December. And he was one of the guys back, if you think back to the Michigan State tunnel brawl in 2022, he was one of the ringleaders. He was at Michigan State at the time. He did get suspended from it. Did get in some fairly serious trouble for it. I don't know that he's a bad dude. I've never talked to the young man, but that is floating close to turd territory, fair or not.
Yeah.
And because he does fit what they want, and like I said in the daily, the Lions did watch him pretty closely on Wednesday's practice. I got that firsthand from a couple of different people. In fact, one of them texted me right at the time. He's like, "Your boy is watching Young." I'm like, really, okay. And then, but the character issues and the fact that he's not a finisher either. 9 sacks in 26 games at Missouri showed more than that. Showed the capability of doing more than that, but I just don't think that this is a guy that the Lions are going to have very high. But you never know. We'll see.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Zion Young because Lance Zierlein posted mock draft 1.0 and pick 17, Zion Young. So
really,
yeah.
Oh, Lance.
Yeah,
I love Lance. Lance is a great dude.
Yeah, he is.
He's a good dude, real good dude.
But yeah, no, we'll see. Obviously, and we're still. Everybody, just so everybody knows, like we're still debriefing, if you will, as we come down from the Senior Bowl high, and unfortunately, we didn't have our donut burger or whatever the hell it is that you eat down there.
The Sugar Rush, barbecue bacon cheeseburger with king cake donuts as your buns. They're fantastic. It's like 4,500 calories, all empty, and it's fantastic.
And you wash it down with a cold beer. It's a great
or
time.
3. Yes.
7, 8, whatever. But no, that we will have more as we move along here. I know Scott and I got something coming this week for Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl stuff as well. So I might repeat a little bit of what I have said, but I'll try to add in a little bit more players as well. But you got anything else for us, Jeff?
Not really. Other than it did come up. It came out on Monday that Levi Onwuzurike's contract tolled, which means Justin Rogers was first to report it. We'll give Justin some credit for that because that's good work on his part. It means that 2025 never existed for Levi Onwuzurike. He's under contract for the Lions for 2026, coming off of an ACL after he's already had his spinal fusion surgery. I pray to God they're not counting on him, but damn, it's nice that he's going to get a shot to prove himself again.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, if you get a guy that can come in and that saves you a deal down the road for another vet, it kind of opens the door for maybe a veteran center or something like that. So
that's right.
You're absolutely right. And I think the same thing with Josh Pascal. I think there's some details on that as well for a similar circumstance. So I think we might be getting them both back fairly cheap. So we'll see kind of how that goes. We pray. And while we pray, you guys can go ahead and hit us up on Twitter or X at Russ NFL Draft, at Jeff Risdon. And of course, you can rate, review, and subscribe to the Detroit Lions podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other podcast platforms. This has been the Daily DLP. He's Jeff Risdon. I'm Russ Brown. We'll be back here on the Detroit Lions podcast.